Hi, this is JilliBling. How are you today? Are you in the Christmas card making mode? Maybe like a little sparkle? What do you think? Isn't that pretty? Very simple. And it goes together really quick other than cutting out the pine cones, but it's not too hard. And this project, artisan Tammy made it using pink polish, and I decided to go a little bit more traditional with the colors, but thank you, Tammy, for sharing. So we will use Poinsettia Petals mostly for the words. And the dies, we will use Christmas Pinecone dies. This is where the pine cones come from, and the pine bough. And when you get this bundle, it comes with some really great words. But the pine cones, this big die, comes in, there's two different ones. And we'll be just using the finer detail one, but these two work together, so you could do this one maybe in a lighter color and this one in a darker, or the other way around, making it look like there's snow on the branches, however you choose, but it beautifully works together. And then for the words, layering circles, good standby. A little bit of heat embossing. Okay, so let's get started. We'll be using all this stuff. And for ink pads, I have just Versamark and soft seafoam. Okay, so because I've already done two in Misty Moonlight and just one in the real red, let's do another real red card. So here's base paper. We'll fold that in half. Okay, and this is for the words. So looking at the words, let me find that. It's right here. I like these words, and it's a little bit bigger right down here. It says it's shown at 65%. May the magic and wonder bloom this holiday, which is great for a blooming poinsettia. But I like the font, I like the layout, I like how it fits in the circle. But I don't know that pine cones, do they really bloom? I don't know if I should use that. Thank you for making this a wonderful season, which is always great. That's great to send to a friend, because friends really do make things wonderful. Happy Holidays is good, a little bit smaller. Merry Christmas, warm wishes from our home to yours. That one is nice too. So I'm not sure. And you know what, I have them both here. I tried them out. Maybe I'll try this, and if it doesn't work at the end, after I get a few comments, I'll pull it off and I'll put on Happy Holidays. Did I use a Happy Holidays? I didn't use Happy Holidays on the outside. Decisions. I'm going to use this one. Okay, so the white is for this little scallop, and then you emboss with Versamark. Well, here, I could do that really quick. Just pretend like that one isn't done yet. So I'll do the bloom one right in the middle. And put it into white powder. And heat it up. Uh-oh. So last night was the time change, and of course I'm up right when I normally am, which means I was up at 5 o'clock. It's like, whatever. I'll get used to it eventually. But the coffee wasn't ready for me. So I had to wait for the coffee. So we got that little sneak a cup feature. So as soon as the coffee pot had enough in it, I sneaked a cup. Now tell ya, the first little bit of coffee comes out strong. I mean, really strong. So I am like noticeably kind of driving myself crazy, being a little jittery. So yeah, it makes sense that the heat tool fell. Okay, so in the circles, your choices, in the little tray, there are 3 different groupings. This one's large, medium, and small. This is small. I think most of the samples are with the medium, and then this is using large. So just an FYI. Okay, I'm going to cut these out. Stick them together. Woohoo! Okay, and then this soft seam foam paper, I will use this big die, and probably when you're looking at this big die, you're like, oh my gosh, all the picking out. But I don't know what they're doing with their dies lately, but they work really well. So I would crank it through once and then crank it back through so it gets 2 passes. And if you want, pretend like this is your cutting platform. If you run it through like this, maybe the second time through, run it off to the side over here, just to make sure you get good pressure on it. And flip it over and make sure you have a good cut. So like I said, it runs through really easily. This one I ran through. All the pieces that are not here just naturally fell out. And all these other ones, they punch out super easy. And see how there's pine cones here? 3 groupings of pine cones. Because you're going to have big, beautiful pine cones covering them, if you don't punch out every little bit of this, but see how easy it comes out, that's just fine because you're going to be covering it anyhow. So just an FYI. It's nice when it works easily like that. And on the inside of the card, I'm going to leave it just at that. Cut it right here. So on the inside of each of the cards is 1/3. Let me put this on here so you can see. This is in 3 groupings. Here's one grouping, here's a second grouping, and here's a third grouping. This is just 1/3 of it with more pine cones cut, but we'll do that in just a minute. So what I was doing was I cut out right there. I'm going to cut right here. Okay, so this will be my inside. And I'll leave that for later or for another card, so I don't need to punch it out. Okay, so we have inside. These little bits can go away. Here's the outside. Okay, so embossing folders. I have a few different embossing folders to choose from. I do like this music one. So let's run through a piece of paper. This card I want going this way. So let's run it through. And because the embossing folder is big, if you want it landscape, this way, portrait, run it through this way. I think on one of these I use the music, and that one's going portrait. So here's that. So this textured paper just gets stuck down. And you know, trying to figure out which direction the music is going, is this upside down? It's hard to tell. And at one point in my life I did play a little music, so I should know. But when you look at it, even people that are experienced in music, they're like, it could go either way. I think maybe they just put the pattern going both directions. Okay, so here is this, and this will stick down on here, and I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue. And I'm fine if it's not 100% attached. I'll do it in here so you can see. And I know that's under a pine cone. That doesn't have to come out, but that's okay. And I'm doing it on here more. I would just hold it in my hand, but I just want you to see that you don't have to put glue on everything. Mostly just the ends. And just a little bit. It's so pretty, it's fine if it kind of pops up a little bit. And you can always add more glue if there's one particular branch that's really popping up. You can stick it down later. So when you're ready to do the pine cones, there's 2 different dies to make one pine cone. There's the underside, which I'll do in white, and then there's the top sparkly paper. And I'm using some paper that we got from Celebration last month, just because I have a lot of it and it's so pretty. Oh, you know what? Just a minute. Let me go off track here for a minute. So if this one is going in landscape, I want the words right about here. And why does that matter? Is because when you flip this over, here, this is the right way, but I'll show you what I'm looking at. So it's grouping of pinecone, pinecone, pinecone. And I really don't want to cover up too much of the beautiful pine cones. I like them showing down here. So I'll put this right about here. If I had it the other way, if I had turned this the other way, I would definitely be covering up all that. Which after you do the pine cones, you might say, I don't want as many pine cones. And I do have a little bit of a tip on that. Okay, so this is down just fine. And I'll stick the words on. Right about there, making sure that the words are straight. Okay, so for the pine cones, running this through on the die is no problem at all, and it pops out really easily. This part here, running it through, I made sure to run through each one of these pine cones, forward and backward, and then before I took the die off of here, I made sure to see the outline, the cuts, and made sure that they're already all the way cut through. And because it's kind of super sparkly, if you don't punch out every little bit, it's okay, it's really pretty. So when I went to punch this out, I thought, oh, this is a mistake. But do you see how detailed this die is? When I'm punching it out, I'm not having a hard time just because it didn't cut through. I'm having a hard time pulling it out because there's all this detail. So if you're aware that that's what the hang up is, somehow it seems to work a little bit better. So that came out pretty easy, but see that piece right there? That's kind of holding it in place. And then to get these little bits out with my snips. Oh, Bo is having a dream. Can you hear him? He stopped. Sometimes he wakes me up at night with that. Okay, so just like that, all these little pieces, almost all of them are out. And like I said, if you don't get all of them, it's just sparkly beautifulness and it's okay. For instance, this little last one isn't out, but if you turned it over, you would just go, oh, that's pretty. What's nice about this paper is it's half between kind of gold and silver. But if you don't have this paper, any sparkly paper you have is good. And any foil paper is beautiful. Okay, so next is to attach this to that, the first half of them, I was putting glue on the back of this detailed piece. Then I thought, well, wait a minute. There's probably an easier way. So the last half, I just put glue around the perimeter of the pine cone. And you'll come to find that the sparkly paper does not set into each of these little pine cone, what do you call them? Pine cone leaves? Pine cone chunks? And then taking this top part, getting that lined up, and see how I'm kind of smushing it in between my fingers, and then I'll put my fingers here and just kind of make sure it's all lined up. And these sparkly bits go in different areas on the end of each of the pine cones. It's not consistent, but that's probably what makes it so beautiful. Like for instance, this one right here, there's glue, but there's no sparkly on there. But that's just how the die cut it. But it's okay. Okay, so do all of your pine cones, and I'm going to make a little chart saying for Magic and Wonder, make 6 pine cones big and 10 pine cones small. But just let this sit off to the side to dry a bit. And then, oop, I have one more that's not put together. Okay. Probably should have done that. But just along the outside. Then set that on top, push it into the glue a bit, and get them lined up. And just let it sit off to the side to dry. Okay, so now to attach the pine cones, I'm going to use dimensionals. I want them popped up a little bit. So here's a big one. So I'll put 2 dimensionals on there. A little one. A big one. A little one. So now this little one is going to cover up the word holiday. So I'm going to put it right here and purposely have it drift a little bit low. Because the background seafoam paper is busy with pine cones and pine needles, it won't be obvious that I'm not putting it right on top of the designated area. Okay, so here's a little one. Now it's hard to see what I did. I know that's a little one. Here's a big one. I kind of like it going up on top of my circle. Here's a little one. And this is the little one that's really, so it should be going right over the holiday, but I'm going to put it here, pretend like I planned that. So you can still read the words. So this one too, it looks like it should be there, but I'm going to shift it back just a little bit, and it looks just fine based on the pine boughs. Okay, so what do I have going here? Okay, so the big one, so this one has just 2. So the big one goes here. And a little one goes here. Okay, so that is almost done. Now I want to decorate it a bit. I want to use these subtle shimmer sequins and maybe I'll do some of these gold clear ones. On this other red card I put red. Was it these same ones? Yeah, I think it was the same one. So I'm trying something a little different. So I'll use the gold. Oop, I left the glue dot behind. Focus on picking up the glue dot. Okay, and then I'm going to put on a few of these with liquid glue. So I'll do 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And these I'll do the pearlescent, the kind of white ones. And there's, I think, 3 different sizes in here. Okay. Very good. So for the inside, here's the paper, and 1, 2, 3. Because I have 3 already done, I could have looked on here. 1, 2, 3. This one has 2. I could have taken that chunk, so I just had 2, but because I have 3 already made, I'll do this one. So that can be right there. Warm wishes from our home to yours. I'll put that right up above here. I'm going to do it in soft seafoam. At first I was thinking about pulling in the colors of the base paper, the red and the misty moonlight. But I did it in the soft seafoam, and it is very subtle, but it's nice and very calming and soothing when you open up the card to have it a bit monochromatic. Okay, so I'll put glue on here. And just like last time, just a little bit, because I'm fine if it pops up a bit. And then I'll attach the pine cones. And the pine cones, you could put them flat if you want, but I think I'm going to put it on dimensionals. I'm okay if there's just a little bit of thickness on the inside of the card. And on some of these, I purposely got them so that the words were off to the side, and the words were kind of nestling into the pine bough. But this one, it turns out a little bit more centered. And dimensionals. So I'll do 1 for the little pine cones and 2 for the big one. So I have to admit, the pine cones did take a little bit of time to make, but they're so pretty. And when you're looking at this, you're like, that isn't bad. But I did spend a bit of time working on them. Okay. Well, there it is. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and thumbs up. I do watch to see what you like. And I will put all the products used on my blog, and my blog is JilliBling.com. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day. Bye.